There's nothing worse than loading into a race and realizing that the Aston Martin F1 car would handle better than the setup you're using. So today I decided to test 5 different setups to see which one was the best. I'm not just saying this, the end result really did surprise me. For this test, we're on the Mog Ultimate in the Janessa LMP3 at Silverstone. This is a combo I'm familiar with, so I get 5 laps to set the best time I can on each setup. I'll be trying high-mo setups, sim racing Arnout, Go setups, Coach Dave, and the default LMU setup today. To keep the test as fair as possible, I'm using the same track conditions in each run, and I restarted the session at the end of every run to make sure the track's grip stayed the same. My main simulator is iRacing, where my team has a deal with Grid and Go setups, so that's my main setup shop nowadays. But I have used high-mo and both Le Mans Ultimate and iRacing in the past, so I'm interested to see how the others will compare. Before we start, if you're looking for some clean and friendly community races and a place to hang out, then make sure to join the Discord server, the link is down below. Let's start off with the Mog Ultimate's default setup. As this is the default setup, this will be a good benchmark time to compare the rest to. This setup is made for everyone to be able to drive, so beginners can hop in and have a stable foundation to learn on. Because of this, it seems this setup sacrificed some straight line speed for more downforce and better cornering ability. Through the high speed corners, I definitely felt that this setup lacked the grip it needed to gain time compared to the other setups we'll be trying. However, it made back the time through the medium and low speed corners. There were some corners where I wanted some more rotation at the apex, which I was able to achieve by applying the throttle quickly to get the rear to slide a little bit. This could be improved by reducing the car's traction control, however, for the sake of this experiment I kept it at default. The car's default brake pressure set at 70% was too low in my opinion, and I wasn't able to push the braking into corners how I would have liked. This said, the setup felt very easy to jump into and drive, and I feel as though I could jump into a race with no practice and still be competitive using the setup. Now, this one didn't feel very fast at all, and it felt quite tame in general. However, the lap times told a different story. I was able to do a 152.3, which for those that don't know is an extremely competitive time and would have you fighting for podiums in top split daily races. I'm not gonna lie, this has set a high bar for the rest of the setups. Let's move on to the next one from Sim Racing Arnout. Arnout setups come as car bundles for around $30. I couldn't see a way to buy them separately on the website. This setup I'm using here is one of the free ones he puts out. From what I understand, these setups are the same as the paid ones, but you only get 1 or 2 of them, so let's see how it handles. I had 2 setups with this pack, a high downforce and a mid downforce pack for Silverstone. I decided to go with the mid downforce as high downforce is usually a lot slower around here. This setup felt as though it was developed for beginner sim racers or drivers that just aren't comfortable with a loose rear. I tried quite a few different things, but I just wasn't able to get the rotation I needed through corners. The rear of this car just did not want to turn. Similar to the default setup, I felt that the standard brake pressure, which was 80% in this one, was too low and I had to bring my braking points back compared to the other ones, so that I could still make it around the corner. Not to be too harsh on this setup, but it was awful to drive on cold tyres. Much worse than other setups, however the tyres were up to a good operating temperature within 2.5 laps. This should give you an advantage at the start over other drivers because this setup managed to warm its tyres up a lot faster than any of the others I tried. This seems like a good setup to use if you're just starting out, but it's not competitive enough for top split races in my opinion. My best time with this setup was a 153.77, which is quite far off the pace. Let's move on to high-mo setups. Like I said before, I've had high-mo setups before on both LMU and iRacing, not in this car though. I will be honest, I've had mixed experiences with high-mo setups in the past, so I'm not sure what to expect for this one. First thing I found was that the tyres took a long time to warm up and struggled to maintain a good operating temperature. This is going to be a big problem throughout races. The default brake bias was set too far forwards in my opinion, so I moved it back a couple clicks and it felt much better. I was able to push the braking points more, which was a lot faster. Something I was finding with this setup is that it felt super unstable through corners I expected it to be stable in. For example, through Maggots, Beckett's and Stowe, I thought that I would have a planted rear end, but it was super loose throughout the whole sequence. I didn't have any incidents in my run, but I felt as though this may be tricky in endurance races, especially as the tyres wear more. My best time with this setup shocked me a little. I did a 152.79, which is slower than the default setup. Now let's move into the second set of esports setups, this time from Go Setups. I've used some of theirs in Portimao with GT3 cars, but I wasn't a big fan of them, so let's see how this one feels. The setup didn't feel great on cold tyres, but warmed up faster than Jaime. Other than this, I cannot fault this setup at all. It felt well balanced through all slow, medium and fast corners and gave me the confidence to push hard without the risk of spinning or running wide. The default brake bias felt really good for me, but some drivers may want to move it forward a click or two. I was able to push my braking point super far without worrying about locking up. This setup felt amazing to drive and had the lap times to back it up. I set a new all-time PB of a 151.92, which puts me 5th on the Track Titan leaderboard out of a few hundred times in this car, excluding the others. Including the other cars, this would put me around 10th place out of nearly 1,000 times. Not too bad in my opinion. I was really enjoying this process, so I decided to do a run on the Coach Day setup just to see how it compares. This one was by far the easiest to drive, but that's not necessarily a good thing. The default traction control was set too high at 7 compared to the others which used 4 or 5. The setup required you to trail brake deep into corners to get the car rotated, however it still struggled on corner exit. My best time with this setup was a 153.68, which isn't competitive for top split races. As it was easy to drive, if I was thrown into an endurance race without practice, this would probably be my pick, but I just don't see it having the pace to be competitive in the daily races. That's all my findings for this video. I really enjoyed making it. If you'd like to see this video on iRacing, then make sure to hit that like button. Thanks for watching, make sure to like, subscribe and join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next one.